space. Space is a word that can go in a lot of different directions and be used in lots of different contexts and situations. We're going to have a little conversation today using the word space, so you'll need to pay attention as the conversation will go in different directions. And since we will talk about a variety of topics using the word space, I'm going to use some connecting phrases to join this disjointed conversation together. And so these are words and phrases that you can use in your own conversations today. I'm Phil. I teach English here at Mayak in the Czech Republic. I'm glad you've joined me today for this little conversation. As I mentioned, today I'd like to chat with you using the word space. So let's start with a little easy question here. Do small, confined spaces make you nervous? Do small, confined spaces make you nervous? Personally, I don't feel too nervous about these situations. I'm not really generally very claustrophobic. I don't feel the pressure of the space when I'm in a tight place. But I do remember when I was a kid going into a cave on a tour. But there was a place where it was really, really tight. And I remember just thinking, this is too tight for me, and this would make me really nervous. I knew it was just one little experience, and I could get through it. But I remember thinking, I don't like this. As I'm thinking about it, I remember when I was younger, I went into what we call a hay maze. And this is when a farmer will take a lot of bales of hay, these kind of squares of hay, and stack them up in a special way to make just a very small path to go through in the middle of a huge hay maze. In this particular hay maze, there was only enough room for my body to squeeze through as if I were a snake on my belly. So I had to wiggle through on my belly, and I could feel someone in front of me. I could feel their feet, and I knew somebody was behind me. But everywhere else around me was just a wall of hay. And really, there wasn't any other exit except to go all the way through this little maze, this little hay maze. Obviously, I did make it to the end, but that was pretty scary for me. But outside of these kind of situations, I don't usually get too claustrophobic feeling. Since we're on the topic, how do you feel about big, wide open spaces? Most people don't really have a problem with this. Most people think to be out in a big field or a meadow with just lots of space around them is great. It feels free. It feels good. How about you? How do you feel about that? How about more modern wide open spaces? How do you feel about being in a big shopping center? It's a big wide open space, but inside and possibly filled with lots of people. Do you also get good feelings from that or no? Let's shift gears a little bit and use the word space in a different way. How interested are you in outer space? How interested are you in outer space? Did you enjoy learning about space when you were a kid? And do you still like it today? I ask this because when I was a kid, I don't really remember wanting to be an astronaut like most of the other kids that I knew. I'm sure it was interesting to me on some level, but I don't remember seeking out more information and really wanting to know more about space. That wasn't my special thing. And I say this in contrast to what I know about my son. He's 7, and he loves new information about space. He's so interested in space. And so this is a bit of a contrast for me, for who I was as a kid. And if I'm honest, I know a lot more about space today because of my son than I did even when I was a kid myself. That reminds me, do you ever catch yourself gazing off into space? Do you ever catch yourself just gazing off into space? If you don't know what that means, it just means kind of to stare off into nothing. Just stare. It could be outside, of course, could be into the sky, or it could be just inside, at the wall, out the window, just staring, gazing off into space. I know I do this a lot, but I don't actually recognize it in the moment. It usually takes somebody else around me to say, hey, what are you thinking about, Phil? Or sometimes they'll even have to say, Phil, get your head out of the clouds. Get your head out of the clouds. Like, come back down to earth, join in what we're doing. On another note, do you feel like you have to be the one to fill the space in a conversation? Do you feel like you have to be the one to fill that empty space in a conversation? It is kind of hard for me to answer this here, as I'm basically having a one-way conversation with you through YouTube. But I often do feel like I need to be the one to fill in the empty space in a conversation. But I feel like I'm getting better in this area. When I was younger, I know I filled the silence of a conversation much more quickly. But as I've gotten older, and I've been a teacher longer, I know and I recognize the need for people to just sit and think a bit. Especially as people are sitting and thinking in a language that's not their native language, it takes a little longer to process. So I'm becoming more okay with just sitting in silence and not having to fill that space of a conversation. How about you? Are you the same way? Speaking of this, do you feel like you have enough breathing space in your life right now? Do you have enough breathing space in your life right now? And by this question, I mean, do you have enough margin in your life right now? And I know I probably just used a word that doesn't make it any clearer, but margin is just another way to say, do you have that extra time and space to think and breathe and process your life without just go, 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 go? Frankly, I don't feel like I have enough breathing space in my life right now. But I feel like the first step is just admitting the truth. And the truth is, right now, in this season of my life, there isn't a lot of extra space and time to think and process through things. I'm in a season where it is very go, 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 but I also know that seasons don't last forever, thankfully. So for now, I'm just taking the quiet moments that I can find and taking advantage of them, using them the best I can, just sometimes just to sit, be quiet, and breathe. I've started using breath prayers as a way to just use this quiet time better. Using a breath prayer is just a basic breathing exercise, just breathing slowly to calm your body down. But as I inhale and exhale, I pray or just say some words from the Bible, words about truth, words about Jesus, words about my hope and confidence in Him, to remind me that I can't give myself the peace and the quiet that I need, but I can find that in God. And that has been really helpful and a really great way for me to use maybe the small amount of extra minutes that I can find in a day, and to use them well, to find a little bit more breathing space in my life. Thanks for joining me and watching today, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks a lot.